Today in Delphi, a ballistics expert took the witness stand to talk about the bullet that was found at the scene and how that bullet connects to Richard Allen.
She examined the bullet cartridge that investigators recovered at the crime scene between the bodies of Abby and Libby. And then 5.5 years later, she examined a gun that police seized from Richard Allen's home. Firearm examiner Melissa Oberg explained how she test-fired a bullet through that gun. And then she showed pictures of that fired test bullet side by side with pictures of the bullet cartridge recovered at the crime scene. Under a high-powered microscope, the two images showed markings that appear to match very closely. Oberg told the jurors, based on her testing and examination of the evidence, she concluded the cartridge found between the girls' bodies did cycle through the gun that belonged to Richard Allen.
Lauren, you got the floor.
The prosecution's questioning of their expert witness went really well at first. And I thought she, by the way, in my opinion, she held her own. She has the experience. They spent forever on her background. What she shared before the defense came, I was just like, I'm sold. I'm sold. The defense comes up and their job is to confuse all of us. And I think they did a hell of a job doing that, if I'm going to be honest. So well done, defense. And what they really, I think the main thing that is sort of confused everyone is that in order to test the gun, she fires rounds. And so I just don't get how those two variables are compared, like spent or unspent. So do you see what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
If I manually extract and eject, I'm doing just like Ed said, it's the extractor is pulling that out of the chamber, the ejector is coming in contact with it, and it's ejecting out through the hole. If I fired it, it's doing the same thing. It's just doing it on its own. But
with more energy.
I thought the bullet was never used or even in the gun. Am I wrong? So now can the bullet have these marks?
If that was not in a firearm, it would not have those marks. Those marks are made by a firearm.
So, Jimmy, it had to have been in a firearm and ejected, as you just demonstrated, at that location. It didn't just drop out of someone's pocket.
No, it wouldn't. Even if it came in contact with like a piece of metal or concrete, or Eddie will tell you these things end up in all different places. You're still going to have the original marks from the gun, unless it was never put into a firearm, and then it's just factory marks, whatever happens to be on it.
Well, so to clarify, you can have a round in a gun. And if you take it out of, like in the magazine, let's say, and you can, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is what I'm stating for clarification. You say you're completely wrong or you're right, but you can have it in the magazine and simply take it out of the magazine. But if it's up in the barrel of the gun and it's ejected, there's a mark.
To illustrate, so it sits on the top of the magazine. It's spring loaded, like a Pez dispenser. Remember the old Pez dispensers?
Oh,
so,
yeah.
It would pop up and it would stay in that position, because that exposes that part of the cartridge to the action of the gun.
So here is a 1911 45 ACP in its magazine, seated correctly. Okay, so Jimmy, go ahead.
Okay, so the extractor of the gun is going to come up and contact this part of the live cartridge. It's going to climb over the rim and make a contact with it like that, like a hook. It's driven now up into the chamber, where it's sitting into the chamber. So just push that one out, Eddie, so you show what it looks like. And just to confuse things even more, the magazine itself can leave marks on it also.
Right, the magazine here and here,
correct,
could leave tool marks on the side of the brass.
Correct. So that wasn't the in this case. So it seems like it's all extraction and ejection marks. So as that gets put forward, that hook attaches. It gets slammed into the chamber, and if you eject it out, it's making the same mark. It's making the same mark. The metal's in contact with the other metal, and it's pulling, and then being removed from it, it's making the same mark.
Yeah.
And I love presentations. This is education 101 for our audience. And I think any enthusiast that's watching this trial needs to watch this.
It triggers the press. It releases the hammer. The hammer is going to come forward and hit the firing pin. The firing pin is going to strike the primer. The primer ignites the gases of the powders and pushes the bullet. The pressure pushes the cartridge case back. Now, what ends up happening is the extractor pulls it out, and then the ejector kicks it out of the ejection port. The ejector pulls it back, and then the extractor kicks it out of the ejection port. And then it goes forward again, and the bolt goes forward again and strips a new live cartridge and pushes it into the chamber.
And just so let me Eddie, if I could add in, if you pull back on that bolt on that gun without firing it, it's going to do the same action.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Gotcha. That visual right there really helped me understand.
And then once you put a live cartridge in the chamber, dropping the magazine does nothing. The only way to get that live cartridge out is for you to cycle that weapon, to pull the slide back and manually eject it.
Yeah, it's racking it back, makes that impression and that mark. But Lauren, let me ask you, if the state was to play a demonstration like this, I think the jurors would see it more clearly, no?
I completely agree. That was missing. That would have really, really helped. They showed, they showed making of 6-hour guns. They showed all these things. I needed to see that because I didn't understand how firing a gun was similar.
Can you all see what the image I'm showing now?
Yes.
All right. So disregard the image of the head stamp. Look at the internal workings of this. Is a semi-automatic handgun. Circle in orange, label 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is the extractor.
Okay.
Okay. That's the little hook that goes between the head stamp and the rim there. The green circle, labeled number 4, is the ejector. So when this slide pulls back, this ejector here pushes that cartridge out of the gun.
Okay.
This, in where my mouse is in orange, is holding the cartridge by the rim.
Okay.
Everybody understand that?
Yes, it's so helpful. They need this for the jury. Honestly, we were left with so many questions at the end of the day. It was like we were understanding everything up until lunch, and then we come back, and then defense begins, and it's just so confusing when we learn about how it's tested.
You're inside the courtroom. You're sitting there in the audience.
There are very few seats, but it's an old courthouse, very extravagant, old courthouse, turn of the century. And so the ceilings are like 25 feet high. And so it's big and it's small. So it's hard to hear things and you're kind of sitting far away, but there are also very few seats and we're sleeping outside to get in.